Hey guys, it's Marissa from Grow in the Flow, and I'm coming in here on Thriving Thursday to talk about the current planetary action of Saturn Retrograde. That's right. You may know that Mercury retrograde had finally ended on June 3rd, and while we are still in that shadow period of Mercury retrograde, which will last until about June 19th, just the day after it moving direct, stationing direct, we have Saturn now stationing retrograde from June 4th to October 23rd. Now, we're going to explore a little bit about those energies. Again, I am an astrology enthusiast. I am by no means an expert, and I'm really leaning in today into the beautiful teaching tools, graphics, and information provided by so many very skillful astrologists out there. So I'm very thankful for those resources for us to use today as tools. So let's tune in here to what we can expect with Saturn retrograde. So Saturn is a planet that is going to highlight opportunities for us to revisit karmic lessons and also seeing new ones that may be on the horizon. It brings in focus and self-discipline. And that is because Saturn is the planet of time, responsibility, and karma. And now that it is in retrograde, it really does come up to kind of go back over and revisit and revise any of those big items. So in astrology, Saturn is known as the great teacher. It is the one who throws in the bumps and obstacles on our path, forcing us to learn lessons. And it is a planet that demands a certain level of hard work, of perseverance, and self-control. So things falling under that umbrella is what we are tuning into. It can be a little cold and direct, but it is in the intention of things being for our highest and best good on our paths. Now, of course, in Roman mythology, Saturn was the Titan god of Kronos, father of Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto, so often referred to as Father Time, who was known to not only provide time, but could take it away. So I'm going to show you a little nod at the end to a previous video series I did that's going to give the opportunity to explore a ton of information about the planets and how they line up with our days of the week and much more. But let's take a look here back at Saturn. We are most notably highlighting that Saturn is sitting in Aquarius and has been since March 2020. So what that does with our retrograde periods is it makes it an ideal time for us to review and assess our long-term goals and responsibilities that fall under the very Aquarian umbrella of humanitarian and social issues. It's very forward-focused on the new energies that are streaming onto the planet. And it's an opportunity for us to use this time to gather with our communities and slowly work toward building a better future for ourselves. That's what the age of Aquarius is all about. And of course, that is the era that we are in at this time. So it's really on a global scale, on a macrocosm level, there's huge planetary shifts happening for us here. Bringing it into our microcosms, into our lives and how it may play out for us, it is going to provide these opportunities for us to really go back over and look at things that have been showing up for us since March 2020. Yes, knowing that that is a very notable time in history, as it also marks the beginning of the global pandemic. Of course, it might be easy for you to reflect back between now and then to see what was happening in your world. So there's some key dates to look at when we talk about this retrograde. It kind of goes back over the different significant astrological periods that we have to take a look at. So we're going back to March of 2020 when Saturn entered Aquarius and has stayed there until now. It's going to remain in Aquarius through March 7th of 2023. And it's going to be another 28 years before it returns. So that's why it's a very powerful time that we have an opportunity to work with its energies. And so when we're reflecting back on the types of lessons and things that were showing up for us, we can use that March 2020 as a marking point through March 2023. Now, there's a little note here that if you happen to turn 28 through 30 or 57 to 59 years of age during this Saturn in Aquarius cycle, so anytime between March 22nd, 2020 and March 7th, 2023, if you will be or have celebrated one of those birthdays in there, this would make it an extra significant time for you. So a little note to self there. So, this is all about the Aquarian energy. So we're talking about the future that you want to create. And so this retrograde period slows everything down so that you have an opportunity to reevaluate and reflect on your life and the direction in which it's currently going. And one of the key aspects is taking responsibility, maturing, and stepping into a position of taking responsibility for our own lives and recognizing that other people's stuff is not our responsibility, just as our stuff is not anyone else's responsibility. So perfect opportunity to also reassess our boundaries and take a look at where we are at with those as well, recognize any cracks in the foundation of our lives and make those repairs. Take the time to make those repairs. And so, there's a lot of different energy that comes up here, and we have some of these beautiful journal prompts that can help you to reflect on where you're coming from and where you are looking to go. So we have something here about pearls of wisdom that you may have been learning from your past and things that have come forward for you. How can you take more responsibility for the life that you want to lead? And then again, reflecting back since March 2020, what are one of the biggest lessons that you have learned? To really reflect upon that and kind of use that as a starting point to see how you can maximize this period. Now, I think one of the key things that comes forward from this period of reflection is awareness. No matter what you find when you dig a little deeper and look back upon things, whatever karmic energies are coming forward for you, it's all information gathering and has the opportunity to really empower you because it's giving you clarity on where you want to invest your time and energy. And if it's not stable, if it's not something that serves you, you have an opportunity to let it go. So it's an opportunity to really put that microscope over repetitive patterns being the clues for you to the lessons that show up for you, and enters in there the karma and understanding those patterns, the idea of what goes around comes around. So we're not taking the easy way out. We take responsibility for our actions, as I mentioned. And so with those boundaries, with that reassessment, with that reinforcement of foundations, we have this opportunity to meet our challenges with grace and dignity. So from a point of view of committing to knowing that the driving force in our lives and what we want is us. We are in the center of that, right? So once Saturn comes forward to help us to create the structure and the foundations that we have an opportunity to build upon, those next steps become clear. And then the ball is in our court to take action on our goals. Now, having already pulled the cards for our collective reading I'm doing today, I can tell you that the cards that came forward are absolutely perfect. This is the energy. As you look at the cards coming up next, really think about these structures and the foundations that you're building upon for the next steps to take and to attain your goals. Beautiful. Now, the boundaries that we are setting are coming up around anything that brings down your energy and vibe. Learn the lessons from your past. And so reorganize your routines, your commitments, any structures that no longer work for you. Let them crumble away so that you can leave that past behind for a better future. It's so Aquarian. So I'm loving this energy. I actually feel like it's such a great opportunity for us to get great clarity to, as we build up to the summer solstice, we have this final spring cleaning to really clear out and shift the energy into the summer. If you are in the northern hemisphere, or for the winter in the southern hemisphere, we're kind of doing these final clear outs in order to get real clear on where we are going moving forward. So let's go ahead and take a look at some collective cards. Okay, so now let's check out a retrograde tarot spread that we are going to use to tune into the collective energies around this Saturn retrograde. So I'm doing a little bit of a different angle here to just get these cards shuffled and pulled, and then we will dig into the collective messages that come up. So of course here, you may find some messages resonate more than others, as that is how it works with collective energy. But let's see what comes forward for us as we tune in to this Saturn retrograde. We have the first card position representing what this retrograde has in store. So let's pull that card 1. Card 2, an interruption this retrograde will cause. Card 3, an important shift that will happen during this time. Let's check in with that energy. A lot of major arcana energy so far. Card 4, something to be mindful of during this retrograde. So again, as always, mindful, not fearful, empowering ourselves with how we can best align with the planetary energies. How and what can we be mindful of at this time? And how this retrograde can help me on my karmic path. So for the collective energies tuning into this reading, how might this retrograde in Saturn help us on our karmic paths? Perfect. Let's go ahead and take a deeper look. Okay, so let's take a closer look here at our retrograde tarot spread. The first thing I'm seeing right out the gate is a pretty cool connection across the top here. We have this row of 3 cards, and in the center we have the major arcana card for justice. Here it is called balance, and it is the karma card of the tarot. It is all about balancing those scales of justice, of karma being balanced. And so it's really appropriate for the energies of Saturn. And more specifically, since as we discussed, Saturn being in the sign of Aquarius and it being quite significant because it has been since March 2020, that it's ending that cycle, coming to an end, that it will not return for another 28 years. And of course, Aquarius is a very future-focused sign, and this is feeling very tied into where we find ourselves now on the planet in the age of Aquarius. And so that is a whole nother fascinating layer to discover. But here, as it relates, one of the key aspects of the age of Aquarius is about the balancing of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And that's actually what we see here, because we start with card 1, which is the Empress, which is the divine feminine energy of the tarot. And then on the right-hand side, we have the card of authority in the Emperor, which is the divine masculine energy. So I see a really cool connection there right out the gate. So let's take a look here at card 1, the card to represent what this retrograde has in store for me. So again, on our collective level, how might this apply to you? We have the Empress, who is the Earth Mother. She is all about connection with Earth, with creation, with gestating things and birthing the new. And so, of course, retrograde, this period that we're in now, could really bring about the birthing of some very new and beautiful energies into your life. Now, this can certainly be actual births, but also new projects, new ways of being, new phases in your life. And so I'm really feeling that connection here for many people coming through this retrograde period now through October, are really going to be gestating things, really developing, and it's like planting seeds and cultivating and nurturing them so that they can be birthed. But I'm also getting a lot of heart healing here, heart chakra opening and heart healing. So I think there's an invitation here throughout this retrograde period to also tune into that heart energy, the heart chakra, and to really connect in with how you can be opening up the heart to bring forward a new way of being, to be birthing something new in your life. So there's some really beautiful energy there. And of course, with the divine feminine, it's also about embracing the aspects of yin, of being, of receiving, of allowing yourself to receive. And I think one of the key things too that we hear so much about is self-care. Really tuning into self and what do I need? So nurturing self and thinking about, what it is that you're looking to bring into your life and ensuring that the steps that you're taking are feeding that, fertilizing that versus the weeds, right? So the beautiful blooms that you're looking to bring into your life in the form of many and various things, the steps that you're taking and when you do take action, as opposed to receiving and stepping back, you want to ensure that it is productive, that it is, again, a means to birthing and bringing forward what it is that you're wanting to bring about. So now as we look at the second card, we have again the card of justice, balance, an interruption that this retrograde will cause. And so this is perfect because it literally is what this retrograde is about. Bringing under the microscope, bringing up to be seen, anything that you have been challenged to balance in your life. What has not been balanced? What still needs to be balanced? In what ways is there an imbalance or injustice coming forward? And so on an individual level, this can have to do again with the things that you're looking to bring forward, the stuff that you're wanting to achieve in your life, things that you've been working hard towards, where you're challenged to look at, in what ways have my actions and the steps I'm taking not been serving, not been done in a balanced way. And so there's a lot here about balancing, bringing things into balance. And so I'm really getting that pull on the doing and the being, the action and the receiving. Let's take a look at the action card, or the doing card of the Emperor. So that's going to be for card 3, an important shift that will happen during this time. And we have this card of authority. Now, one of the things about the Emperor is very logical, very grounded, very level-headed, really able to analyze and make plans and take definitive steps. And so, if you are someone who has struggled in that area, getting really clear on what steps you need to take or that you would like to take, or perhaps you're crystal clear on what it is you want, but you struggle to put those things into action, to take those steps. This shift that is available to you during the retrograde is one that will help you to have clarity and bringing balance to that so that you are able to take those steps. But again, it also can bring to light, the imbalance there, so that you may feel yourself getting pulled and stretched in ways that highlight that. So that's where, it can come in the form of things that are perhaps frustrating or challenging, because it's coming up to show you, to shine that light upon the steps that are serving and the steps that are not serving. So there's this opportunity to balance out those two things. Also the Emperor, doesn't ever take any steps that he doesn't know will be successful. So it can be a very slow moving energy, a very deliberate energy. So that is also where it can feel like things are taking forever, or that things were done too hastily, and perhaps there's some looking back upon different ways that it could be done, tweaking and revisiting the drawing board in some aspects. So again, this can apply to any number of things that you're looking to bring forward in your life, in the way of business projects, but also within your household, within your career, with ways of being and doing that you're looking to bring, like lifestyles and habits and other things that you are wanting to really bring forward, but have been looking to get the ball rolling. So there's an opportunity here for that to shift and get some movement going. So now let's take a look at something to be mindful of during this retrograde. And we have the 9 of Swords, suffering in silence. Now, first thing I see, 9. 9s are the nearing the end of completion. 10 is completion, coming full circle, ends of cycles and beginning of new. So 9s are telling us we're almost there. Typically, we're talking about persevering, not to give up, to keep going. Now here it feels like, again, some of those lofty goals, those action items, those things that perhaps changes and things that you're looking to bring into your life and birth into your life feel so far away, feel like there's so many steps between here and there to get there. And so that can be challenging. That's how it feels here, like looking out at this vast expanse between here and there. And yet the message is to remember not to give up, that to take a moment to pause and acknowledge how far you have come. Look at all those steps that had to be climbed before she could sit upon this rock and look out longingly at the next rock that she wants to get to. You know, so often we're always looking forward, always wanting to know what's next and striving to get things going into the future, which is again very appropriate with this Aquarian energy being very future focused. Let's take a moment to pause and reflect and acknowledge where we are. And that's bringing in for me too the message of in between. I'm no longer where I once was. I'm not yet where I want to be. And so here I am. So being present with what is and searching for the gratitude. If there's a feeling of suffering, if there's a feeling of disappointment, of longing, the best thing we can do is to ground in and tune into the vibration of gratitude, because when we are in gratitude, we're not thinking about lack. So, something to be mindful of is as things are highlighted for you, as they're shown to you through the energies of Saturn retrograde, to focus on gratitude and to focus on acknowledging all of the amazing steps that you have already taken to get where you are and what each of those steps have taught you, how they have stretched you, how they have healed you, how they have expanded your awareness, and how they're preparing you for the steps that lie ahead. Finally, we have card 5, how this retrograde could help me on my karmic path. And we have the waiting game. I love this card. I've talked about this card before, about the rings going around as timelines, as potential paths that you could be taking. And so as we talk about karma and different steps, paths that we're taking, lessons we're learning, perfect card for this position is that the waiting game, the waiting is the hardest part. That's what I'm hearing. Just like we were talking about with the silence, suffering in silence. I feel like the waiting is the hardest part, but as you are rounding about that corner and looking upon where you wish to go and how much time it has taken or how much time it seems is left, pausing to recognize the deep roots that have been laid and the progress that has been made. And so with that renewed sense of awareness, that renewed sense of accomplishment and achievement and growth in mind, we have the 2 of Wands here, which is all about looking out into the horizon, thinking about next moves, contemplation, and taking steps. So it does feel like another Father Time does have the next notch on the clock ticking forward, that there's going to be this forward moving momentum. And it's interesting because the way that he's facing now, if he were to continue on that trajectory on the ring, on the card, it's almost as if he would be moving backwards. He'd be moving counterclockwise, but he's paused there. So he could turn to his left, he could turn to his right and proceed either backwards or forwards. So we're just in this pause, and it is a time for us to gather information to empower ourselves so that we can move forward. Okay, so here we have a final recap on areas to focus on during Saturn retrograde and areas to avoid. So we see some really great pointers here, things that are all very synchronistic with all of the energy that's come forward so far. What we are focusing on, again, self-reflecting on our inner work, taking time to rest for self-care, releasing those structures that are no longer supportive, going with the flow and surrendering, making peace with your past, reviewing your goals to see if they're in alignment with your values. What are you gestating? What are you looking to birth, right? Setting those appropriate boundaries, evaluating what is important in your life, releasing anything that does not light you up, and seeing your challenges as lessons, looking for the lessons and the blessings in it all. When it comes to what we are avoiding, it is giving up when we face obstacles, getting to that number 9, we're almost there. Allow perseverance to take hold. We're letting go of resistance of change, of expecting instant results to our dreams and goals, right? Patience, pacing ourselves. Ignoring repeating situations and patterns. When you're noticing that coming around again, energy, take time to sit with it and reflect. We avoid not taking responsibility and accountability for our lives. Also, rushing lessons that are arising at this time. Again, pacing ourselves, taking our time, thinking about that 2 of Wands. Stubbornly sticking to a goal out of pride. Yeah, if it's no longer serving, if it turns out that it's not what we expected and it's no longer in alignment, it's okay to let that go, to bless it for the experience that it gave us and allow it to go, making room for the new. We're letting go of trying to control things, for shifting blame for what happens in our lives, and most importantly, holding on to limiting beliefs, playing small, right? Keeping ourselves in a tight box. We are expanding, we are growing. So I want to thank you so much for joining me here for this one. Not far behind it, we have another retrograde coming right up this month. So the next one we will see is June 28th when Neptune stations retrograde. And Neptune, of course, is the second planet this month. So we'll have a total of 3 planets in retrograde: Pluto, still moving backwards, Saturn, and Neptune. Neptune does go retrograde each year, so just remember, it's all part of the natural rhythm. So we're aligning ourselves, we're tuning in with those natural planetary energies. So when Neptune goes retrograde, that is an opportunity for us to be experiencing new information, higher truths coming to light. Perhaps things that felt that they were in the shadows may start to make sense or take on a new meaning, which sounds amazing and perfectly aligned with the summer solstice that will be just before this, illuminating things and shining new light on things. It also can lead to new realizations, aha moments, etc. So I can't wait to explore that more deeply as we get closer, but that's just a little preview of what's to come there. And again, I mentioned we do have a series we did here several months ago, the planetary days of the week. We did a series of 7 videos where we looked at how each of the planets aligned with the days of the week. It was really interesting. We learned a ton. We always picked a card, and those messages are timeless. So whenever you tune into them, the messages are for you. So if you're interested in checking them out, I do have a playlist on my YouTube channel. It is also still pinned way up here in the Majestic group. But the easiest way, I'll put the link here in my post today so you can jump right to that series if you'd like to check it out. So thank you so much for joining me. I am sending you so much love and many, many blessings. Take good care.